Welcome back for another daily fantasy baseball video, TGIF, and today I am going to actually record it with sound. It's going to be a little more helpful for you watching the video instead of just trying to read my lips. If you read my lips, that's great. I hope you used JD Martinez last night. He had a great night. I'm here for lineuplab.com as well as dailyfantasysportsrankings.com, DFSR.com for short. Just going to go over some of the weather concerns, my top pitchers, stacks, and value plays for tonight in DFS fantasy baseball. So, let's jump in and start at DFSR.com. If you want to check out my articles for today, you can click on MLB. We've got the podcast there. Doug and James got their daily podcast you can check out, as well as my stacks, pitchers article, and my main article for the day. So what we're going to do is go and we're actually going to start by just going over a couple weather concerns. Here, Seattle and Boston, it looks like there may be some rain between 7 and 9 o'clock Eastern, or between 5 and 7 o'clock Eastern, about 2 hours before game time. Nothing to really worry about when game time hits. Maybe like a 15 to 20% chance it kind of tapers off as the game goes on. So no real concern there. That's really the only rain concern tonight, not looking at the Detroit-Chicago, which I don't believe is on the DraftKings slate for sure. They included it on some of the FanDuel slates, but maybe a late start in that game. But it looks like it will play that second game. The first one was postponed earlier today. Looking at the weather, there's a couple wind things as well I want to go over. In New York, the Oakland-New York game, the wind is blowing out around 10 to 15 mile an hour. The Mets versus Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, the wind is blowing out about 8 to 12 mile an hour. Tampa Bay's playing in Minnesota, where the wind is blowing out about 8 to 12 mile an hour. And St. Louis and Colorado, the wind is actually blowing in 8 to 12 mile an hour. So as you'll see coming up here in my top pitchers, one of my GPP plays is going to be Carlos Martinez. Got some upside. He's going to be low owned just because it's in Coors, but that wind is going to help him a little bit keep the ball in the ballpark. And with low ownership, I think he makes possibly a nice pivot tonight in GPPs if you're trying to go contrarian. And then the last one is Atlanta at San Francisco. The wind is also blowing out there about 10 to 15 miles an hour as well. So keep an eye on that as lineup lock gets closer. Very favorable for the hitters if that wind is blowing out. So just consider that when looking at your stacks. I have, and we'll go into that right away here. So we're going to jump over to my pitcher sheet now for the day and look at some of my top pitchers. Obviously at the top of the slate we got Max Scherzer. He's 12-7 on DK, 11-8 on FanDuel, a huge money line favorite, biggest of the day at minus 230. He's got an elite K rate, an elite swinging strike rate, and he's facing a Padres team that has been not that great lately. And for the course of the season, they have been a little bit better versus right-handed pitching, but still they're striking out 24.5% of the time. So this looks like a double-digit K game for Scherzer. He's going to be your safest pitcher on the slate for sure, but you're going to have to pay up for him. So to get him, you have to find some value plays, and we'll get into that here in a second. Jacob deGrom was held out of last night's game due to some rain issues. He will start tonight. He's up to a minus 150 favorite after starting at close to a pick'em early in the day. He's got that elite K rate. We talked about him yesterday. I talked about him in both my articles on Lineup Lab and DFSR.com, so I won't get too much into that, but he does have that elite, not only the K rate, but also the swing and strike rate. And he's facing a Pittsburgh Pirates team. They're not striking out a lot lately, as you can see, but for the course of the season, they've actually been about the same looking at lefties and righties. So his strikeout upside went down a little bit from last night's matchup for deGrom, but I still think he makes a nice pivot if you're trying to save $600 on DraftKings, $800 on FanDuel. So the other top pitcher of the night, Chris Archer. His safety, he's probably the least safe of those top three guys. He's the only other guy above the 10K range tonight. He's got that 10.7 K per 9 rate and elite swinging strike rate at 12.7% there as well. But he's facing a Twins team that's kind of been red hot lately, 134 WRC plus, 370 WOBA. So a little bit more risky there, but the K upside is definitely there. Just because there's going to be a lot of ownership going up towards deGrom and Scherzer, in my opinion anyway, which should open up some ownership gap for Scherzer. So those are my three top pitchers of the night. Going to have some exposure to all three for sure. Some value guys that I like. My top guy I wrote about my pitchers article today is Mike Clevinger, Cleveland's pitcher. First of all, he gets to go against the Royals. They've only got an 85 WRC plus and under 300 WOBA as a team over the last 7 days, so they've been struggling a bit. And then even looking over at their splits, they're under 80 on the WRC plus and under 300, almost under 290 in the WOBA versus right-handed pitching with an over 20% K rate. So there's definitely upside there. He's got the upside with his K rate as well. He's going to regress a little bit, as you can tell with the XFIP and stuff, but he's also minus 174 favorite, which is pretty good for a guy in that 8K range. He fits nicely as an SP2 with any one of those 3 top guys, or a low-owned GPP guy if you want to get in the Cardinals bats tonight, Colorado possibly, even Boston's a fairly expensive team as well. I wrote about him yesterday, kind of jinxed him a bit because the game was eventually rained out in New York, but Masahiro Tanaka, he's had some problems this season with home runs, but he does have that elite swing and strike rate, giving him some K upside versus the Athletics, who've been striking out over 24% of the time over the last 7 days and over 23% of the time versus right-handers overall this season. So very risky with Tanaka, a lot more risky than Clevenger. Clevenger I would actually consider in cash games. Tanaka I definitely would not, but GPPs, I think a lot of people are going to get away from him just because all the home runs he's given up. Now, Tanaka's a pitcher where I will be using him some in GPPs. I'll also be stacking against him in GPPs as well, especially with that wind blowing out in New York. Kind of downgrades the pitching a little bit. He's probably going to be in that 5% owned range tonight. So if you're looking to go contrarian, he's definitely one way to go. And the other guy I already discussed a little bit with the wind blowing in Coors is Carlos Martinez. I think he makes a decent play tonight as well. With the wind blowing in, helps him a little bit. He is a favorite. He's got the offense, I think, to back him up tonight versus Colorado pitcher Sensatella, who's been struggling a bit after a hot start. So that's kind of the way I'm going for GPPs. Now, for some of my top stacks, I'm looking at the cards. Like I said, the Cardinals and Coors versus Sensatella. Next up, I like the Red Sox versus Giovanni Gallardo in Boston. The weather concern, a little bit of weather concern anyway, when you look, you see some yellow and orange colors on a bunch of different sites when looking at that game. Might keep some people off, so Boston might not be as high owned as I thought, but they've been absolutely scorching hot, 38 runs their last 4 games, so until they cool down, I think you got to keep riding them, even though the home runs aren't really there. I think they've only got 2 or 3 home runs in those 4 games, but hard to top that upside. Love the Yankees versus Manaea. Yankees have been a little bit better against right-handed pitching, but they've still crushed left-handed pitching, top 10 this year as well. And with that wind blowing out in Yankee Stadium, I think it makes a lot of sense. Probably, left-handed, right-handed bats, I'm probably going to go 1 through 4 for them as well. So next up, always a low-owned option is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays versus Hector Santiago. We got the wind blowing out Minnesota there as well. Santiago is not a great pitcher. As you can see, we're just going to look at his numbers here real quick. 5, so he looks like he's going to regress a little bit. He's got about a 1.5 worse XFIP than his ERA. He doesn't strike out many bats and giving up 35% hard contact with the wind blowing out. Just a recipe for those. The Rays strike out a lot, but they are better against right-handed pitching. A little bit better against right-handed pitching, but just with that wind overall, I don't mind at all getting Evan Longoria in there. He's probably my top third baseman value tonight. And then up next, I like the Braves versus Matt Cain. Cain's always susceptible to giving up runs, and the wind's blowing out. Even though it is a bad park, I still like the Braves. I think they can be a sneaky stack, even sneakier than Tampa Bay tonight. Value plays. Going to just go look at some of the lineups here. So I'm going to first go to Philly. I really like Odubel Herrera and Andres Blanco sitting 1-2 in the Philly lineup. If you're maybe playing Scherzer or a combination maybe Scherzer and Archer, if you're trying to go crazy and go all values and 2 top pitchers, they fit in there. Adam Lind for Washington is hitting 5th tonight. He's got some power upside versus Louis Perdomo, so I don't mind him tonight. Hitting behind those guys, he's going to see some nice pitches as well. So going to second base, I like Neil Walker hitting cleanup here versus Chad Cull. And then I talked about him in the article. I love rolling at shortstop with Elvis Andrus on FanDuel only. He's under 3K and makes a great bargain tonight versus Michael Bolsinger. For Seattle, in the outfield, I like going with Heredia here versus a lefty. He's got some positive splits versus left-handed pitching, and he is pretty cheap as well if you're trying to go some of those big bats. And then the last one, I haven't seen the lineup for Arizona yet, but if he's leading off again, Gregor Blanco makes a great value play as well versus Junior Guerra. Junior Guerra was good in his first start. He only went 3 innings, so they might get into that bullpen. He's probably going to be limited to, probably 70, 80 pitches again tonight. So if Arizona can get to that bullpen, I think they make a great play as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go over to the main slate here, dfsr.com. I'm going to use the FanDuel tool, and I'm actually going to lock in my favorite pitcher to get some bats, and that's going to be Mike Clevenger. So I'm just going to lock him in, and we're going to see what we get spit out here. Yeah, so it gives us some Yankee bats, gives us some Boston bats, gives us a couple Houston guys, Cleveland in the middle. So locking in Clevenger on FanDuel, looks like we're going to get a bunch of two-man stacks, which I'm totally okay with. So that's one way I'm going to go tonight. The other way, we're going to see what the system likes just overall by itself. I haven't checked yet this afternoon, but yep, just as I thought, just putting Max Scherzer right at the top. I mean, from a raw points perspective, 47.8, that 10, 15K upside tonight, it makes a lot of sense. And as you can see, with Scherzer on FanDuel, we get a Hanley Ramirez, a Jose Altuve, and a George Springer. So 3 pretty big bats in there with him as well. So looks like we've got some more lineups coming in, making some changes in the back end. If you have any questions leading up to lineup lock, for sure, hit me up on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. You can leave comments below this video on the YouTube here. I will also get to those. Or you can come join me, James, and Doug in the DFSR chat room by clicking on the public chat room here on the bottom. It's going to open up the screen. And that's where we're going to be hanging out. Come ask us questions. Other than that, hope to see some green screens from you all tonight. Good luck, and I'll be back at this tomorrow. I also got a NASCAR video coming out tomorrow once the final 2 practices are over. So make sure to hit the like button on the video, hit the subscribe button. You're going to get some notifications every time a new video comes out, and we'll go from there. Have a great night. See y'all later.